Hey guys, welcome to Code Inbox Automation Lab. This is Sherful. Today we're going to learn one of very basic and fundamental topics of Selenium, which is web locators. So locators, it's nothing but a process to locate or to create an address for any specific web object or web element. What does it mean? I can show you as an example. This is a HTML web page. So this web page, during the automation, we have to locate different web object. Web object, it means each and every part or top element in a HTML website. It's called web object. So like a radio button, the drop down, any tags, all are web object or web element. So during our automation, whatever the object or element we need to do any to perform any action, we have to locate that element first, so that our driver exe file, our driver can find that object in this page without any problem, and then do the action. It means like any or whatever we need to do, like any object, maybe we need to click on there, or maybe if there is a this field we need to type something. Those are the action. So first, before we apply any action in an object, first we have to locate that object or web element properly, so that our driver can find that object and perform the action. Okay, so it's very fundamental, but it's very important. If you are not able to properly locate any object in your web page, you can't do the automate. So to locate any object or element in a site, the Selenium have some standard process. Okay, let's talk about it. There is 8 types of locator in HTML page, and those are Xpath, it's a very famous one, ID, name, LinkText, CSS Selector, class name. Okay, there is another one also. It's called I believe the partial LinkText. Okay, so those are the the different way to locate any object in a site. It means so when we say to locate any object using any one of the process, like I just showed you, like Xpath, CSS Selector, ID, or whatever, those are the the properties of that object. So when a developer create any object or the object in a site or element in a site, they use some properties to create those objects. Sometimes it's a class property, sometimes it's name properties. Those are, you can say, attribute too. Okay, so we're going to use those attribute or properties of the object for a specific object to locate or to address properly that web element, so that our driver can find that element and do some action, perform some action on that element. Okay, as an example, say I would say like open or say open window. If you to see those properties, whatever the object or element, web element we need to spy, all we are going to do, we're going to right click on that object, click on inspect, and after that you can see the related HTML code will be highlighted, and also it will also reflect that specific object when you spy it. So if you click here you'll see this is the related HTML code for this open window web element. So it has a ID. It's one attribute or properties of that object. So the ID is one of the valid attribute that we can use, and it has a value like open window. It has a class is another attribute we can use, and none of them. Okay, and you will see, you know, after the tag there is a tag name. It's a button is the tag name. Okay, we'll talk about later on about the tag name, but for now, you know, we're going to use different attribute, which is ID, class, or name, class name, all those things, okay, to locate any object. So let's do a example. Okay, we're going to do different example in this page, codeinbox.com/practice, this side, you know, to see all of the individual web locator, using the web locator process in Selenium. Like we just saw 8 of them. Okay, we'll do all of them. Okay, so let's open our Eclipse. So I create a class, is called Locators Example, and over here I, you know, so the prerequisite one, we have to use set property method to know where is our the WebDriver key, as well as the location where is the Chrome driver exe file, and the relationship between the WebDriver interface and Chrome driver class. And then I use maximize method to maximize the window. I use implicitly void, and this is our URL. Okay, this is the page, codeinbox.automationlab.com/practice. okay, this is the page. You can find it here too. If you go to codeinbox.com, and if you go down, all the way down, there is a practice link. You will see there is a practice link. So either way, you can go there or directly, or you can directly come to codeinbox.com/practice. okay, we'll do all of our practice in this page. Okay, so first we're going to launch the page, and after that, okay, let's move on here. After that, we'll do one by one practice. So just to remember, you know, it's the Xpath, how we gonna see all of the locator. So example, any object you wanna locate, you know, or you want to create the locator. Locator is nothing. It will create the address for this web element, you know, so that our driver can find that element properly. So how can we see this? We'll use the driver dot. And inside a driver, you know, object reference, this driver object reference in a WebDriver, it has a one method is called a web element. If we locate single element, we'll use web element method, and then inside this bracket, if you say by, how it means how you're going to locate by dot, then you can see all of the related, you know, the process or method that's going to use to locate any object. You can say class name, CSS selector, ID, LinkText, name, partial LinkText, tag name, you know, Xpath, all those things, like 8 of them. Okay, I just showed you the list. Here is the list. Okay, so any one of them you can use, depends on the availability for this specific web object. Okay, so let's the first we're going to use we're going to use attribute. Okay, the first one, number 1, the first example will be using ID attribute. So which one would be? So open window, we'll use open window. This is the button, like open window button. Okay, if you click on this, it will open another new window. So say example, this is our tags. Okay, to make sure this button is working. Okay, it's linked with the other page. So if you click, it should open another page. Okay, so to do this, first we have to locate this window, this button, open window, this button, and then we'll use the click method so that it's click on this button. So first, to locate this window, this button, let's inspect it. Okay, if you see, this is the related HTML page. it has a ID, we'll use the ID. Okay, it has a class, we'll talk about later on about the class. Let's use the IDs. This is example for the how we can use the ID attribute. Okay, and value is open door. Let me copy the value, and then I will say here, I will say driver dot find element by how we going to look at ID. You can see there is an ID, and it's expected string value. So whatever the value of ID, I have to put it as a string. So that's why I put double quotation and paste the value of the ID from the HTML. Open window, we saw this is the open window. Okay, this is the value of ID. And then if you click on put the dot, and what would be the action we want to click, right? We want to click on this element. So this is up to this the code. This is the address for this window button, and this is the action. The click method is the action. This method comes from the WebDriver interface, and this method will perform the click action where the right before this the address is given here. So this is the address for the whatever the web element, the click action will be performed on that button, on that web object. Okay, so that's it. So let's run it, save it. Let's see if it works or not. Run it. We'll do run each and every single example. Okay, let's launch the page. I should maximize. Okay, let's maximize the page. Then now it's supposed to click on, you see it's clicked on an open window, that's why it's open another new tab. Okay, it takes to the tab, it's a new window. It's for the code and books, it's the home page. Okay, so let's close it. Let's minimize this. Okay, so this works. Okay, so that's a way we can use ID attribute. Next, number two, we're going to use name attribute. Okay, using name attribute. Okay, using name attribute, what we can do the same side here. I would say there is a field, you can see there is a box. Okay, we'll type here my name Shoriful, and okay, this Shoriful will type here. So that's, let's see, so first we have to spy this box, the field. Okay, inspect. So this is the HTML for this. You can see it's to reflect the box field, and it has the ID. We're not going to use ID. Here is the name. We can use name, and it has a value. Let's copy the value. Name, enter dash name. Okay, so we're going to say driver dot find element by, how are we going to find the element? By name attribute. Okay, you can see there is a name, and it also expects a string value. So we'll put the value of the name attribute. Okay, and so this is the locator. This is the whole address to locate this the box. Okay, and what would be the action we would like to perform? We would like to type, there is something like some text, to type any value, any text in a field or in a box. We have to use sandkeys method. There is a method, it's called sandkeys. You can see sandkeys. Okay, there is a method, it's called sandkeys. We have to use sandkeys method to type anything. So what we would like to type, we have to just enter the value whatever we would like to type. So let's say type automation or Selenium. Okay, so we're typing this Selenium. Okay, let's comment this one, the example first, so that we can just see how this perform. Okay, is that working or not? And save it, and let's run again. It will show. Okay, Java application. Okay, let's launch the browser. Maximize the window. It should, you can see if you go a little bit down the browser, you can see, okay, this is the box, it's already typed automatically, so it's a type Selenium. Okay, so it did the job. Okay, let's minimize it. So this is the way, okay, we can use the name attribute and SandKeys method. Okay, let's go number 3. So number 3, we're going to use Xpath. Number 3, Xpath is very important. You will see more frequently there we are using Xpath most of the time to locate any web element. So using Xpath. Okay, so there's a 2 different way we can use the Xpath. First of all, we can create the Xpath. That's a good way. It's better you know it how to create the Xpath. And there is also another way you can use. There is a add-on for the Chrome browser. It's called ChromePath. You can use that one. Also, you can use from the HTML code too. Let's see how we can create. Okay, let's see how we can create first. So to create a Xpath, this is the syntax, creating Xpath. So this is the syntax. We have to use // then tag name. We'll see which one is the tag name. Then we'll put a bracket like this, and then there is a @ sign, then attribute, whatever the attribute. We can use any attribute to create Xpath, like ID, name, class, any attribute, whatever the attribute, and then equal, and then we have to put the value under a single quotation. Or we can use // instead of tag name. We can use just asterisk sign. Asterisk signs, it means whatever the tag name, it will accept any tag name, but the rest of the format syntax would be the same. Okay, this is the syntax for creating Xpath. Let me using Xpath. Let me put the note here. So this is the syntax, okay, for Xpath, creating Xpath. Don't worry, I will give all the notes in description below, so you will have all the notes, as well as there will be a block I will create just for web locators, locators in our Code in Box Automation Lab site. So let's see this, which one we're going to use Xpath. We're going to use Xpath for, let's open the site. How about the alert? Okay, so in the last example we enter Selenium, and then let's create over here the alert or confirm. Okay, what happened if you okay let's locate this alert button. Okay, inspect. So this is the alert button. Okay, by the way, we can't use value attribute. Value is not authentic attribute for Selenium, so we can't use value. So or on click, not those things. We can use, okay, let's use the ID attribute to create a Xpath, and this is the input. This is the tag. Tag, it means the HTML. This is the keyword that's used for any specific web object to open. So there the tag will have a opening, there is a, this is a opening bar, and there will be closing over here too. Usually there is a closing. If it's not, it's fine, but the tag it's always started like the beginning after the opening tag. This is the tag name, like input. You can see the div, like this is the div is the tag name. So tag is always started after the opening tag. This is the tag input. So let's see the input, and we'll use ID. Let's copy the value of the ID, and so we'll say driver dot find element by, how we're going to locate, by Xpath. We'll say Xpath. It also expect a string value. So, and what's our syntax? Syntax is we're going to use this, follow this syntax. So we'll put the double forward slash. So what is the tag name? Tag name was input, and then bracket, and then at the rate. What's the attribute? We're going to use attribute ID equals to, I copied the value of ID, so in a single quotation I put the value of ID. Okay, and then what do we want to perform the action? The action would be, I want to click on that button. Okay, so after I write the Selenium in that field, then I want to click on the I want to click on the alert button. So this is the locator for the alert, address for the alert button, and then click is the method or action that will be performed on that button. Okay, let's save it and then run it. Okay, so launching the sign. So it should type the Selenium. You can see, I hope you saw it. After it type here the Selenium and then click on alert, so there was a pop-up window open. It did very quick. It was a little bit quick, so but it did the job. If there is error, it will show in your console. So it didn't show anything in the console. There's the error happened, so it did the job. Okay, that's the way we can use the Xpath. Here, if we want, we can remove. If we can follow this syntax too. After the double quotation, instead of input, we can put the asterisk sign too. We can do this one too. Okay, that should be fine. So this is the Xpath. Next, we're going to, and by the way, let me show you other way too. You can it's not like necessary you have to create Xpath always. You can get other way too. So this example, this is your Xpath. Let's spy the button again. This is the HTML code. If you right click on that HTML code, copy Xpath. Okay, you can copy that and then open a notepad. Let's paste it. You can paste it. You can see this. This is it's automatically create the Xpath for you. So it's not necessary that every time you have to create. You can get the Xpath that way too. This time it has it used the same attribute, which is the ID, but it may use different attribute if there is a more attribute available in this HTML code for this object. Okay, but either way it will work. Okay, here is one more thing. This is the another way, and there is another way people they use. There's a ChroPath. Okay, ChroPath is a, you can see there's a ChroPath is a add-on for Chrome browser. That automatically create Xpath for any object or web element. If you browse in your browser, ChroPath, you can see download ChroPath. you'll see ChroPath, Google Chrome, and this is the extension. Okay, you can add since it's already added to my browser, that's why it says remove, but it's in your first time you can see it will be add-on, so you can add that browser. It will be attached to your Chrome browser, and moving forward you can use that these tools here. Example, after I select this any object here, I can use the ChroPath here too. So you can see there's a ChroPath, and then it will give me the XPath. There's a, by the way, there is a two types of XPath. One is called the relative XPath, another one is called absolute XPath. You can see here the relative XPath, that the one we created, or we just showed, right? We using the following the format is // then tagName @attribute equals to the value. But absolute XPath, usually absolute XPath, you can see there is another XPath is created by this ChroPath, which is AVS, means absolute XPath. You can see, let me copy this, then I can explain you. Let's put the both. Okay, you can see absolute XPath, it's a long XPath. It's very long, and usually started with the a single / then HTML, and then body, then lots of divs. It's a long XPath. Absolute XPath is not recommended to use. It's not a good practice to use. The reason why, because it's absolute XPath, it's started, you can see it's HTML. When you see any website, the website is started at the very top. It's with the HTML tag, and then there is a body. You can see body, and inside a body you will see there's lots of divs. So when your WebDriver, if you use absolute XPath, it will started the driver exe file started to read your site from the top left corner. So, and then it will move forward, follow the path, and if any reason any one of the path, middle of the path is broken, it's a change, it can happen, because between this long locator or address, there's lots of other object is there, lots of other web element is there. So any one of the object can be removed, can be changed, can be moved somewhere else. On that time, those object will not able to find. So this address then will not be valid, because we have to find the appropriate the object or element. We have to, the WebDriver have to follow this whole long path. If middle of the path change anywhere, it will not able to find our desired web element. So that's why this absolute XPath is not recommended to use. Is not a good practice. So you will always use relative XPath, okay, which is started by // okay. And moving forward, I will create separate tutorial video for how to create more generic way, more creative way, the XPath, and lots more other function related to the XPath. Okay, so that's the example for the XPath. Move on. Next is we're going to use CSS Selector. Next is number 4 is CSS, using CSS Selector. Okay, CSS Selector, let me put the syntax. CSS Selector, it's similar to XPath, but here is the syntax. And see how we going to, this is the syntax how you going to create the CSS Selector. Okay, if we know what is that tag name now. Okay, this is the syntax. We'll use just tag name, then bracket, then attribute, and then the value of the attribute. Only difference between XPath and CSS Selector is that XPath is started with the // CSS there is no // tag name, it's same tag name. There is and in XPath there will be @ but there is no @ sign in CSS Selector. So CSS Selector, it's a little more easier, I would say. So either way you can follow this format, tag name attribute equals to value, or you can say instead of tag name you can put str attribute equals to value. Example, your tag name is input, you will put the input and the attribute is the name and value is email. This will be your CSS selector. Okay, so let's create the CSS selector for using CSS selector. Using CSS selector, so we'll see the example for CSS selector would be better. Okay, how about this one, the hide button? Okay, it has a two button, hide and show. If you click on hide, it's supposed to hide the this little box, okay, the field, and show it's again it shows. So let's locate this hide button and then click on there. So if you inspect it, this is the HTML code. Okay, we said we're going to use CSS selector. We'll create the CSS selector. Okay, let's use the ID. Let's use the ID as a let's use the ID, the attribute use. So we're going to use the value of the ID. So we're going to create CSS selector, right? So we'll say driver dot find element by dot CSS selector, and then we'll our syntax. What's our syntax? Our syntax is, so it's also double quotation. We're not going to, so we'll put the okay, input ID. Okay, we'll use this. There is no double forward slash, so we'll use the what's the tag name? Tag name is okay, input. Okay, we're going to use the input. So tag name is input, and then there is no at the rate. Okay, there will be no at the rate, and then we'll use ID equals to just the value of the, in a single quotation, the value of the ID. Okay, and then we're going to perform the click action. Okay, let me put the syntax also for CSS selector. Creating CSS selector. So this is the okay. Okay, this is the syntax, right? Tag name, we put the tag name, attribute, we put the attribute as ID, and this is the value, and click. Okay, so let's comment this one. Let's comment this one too. We just want to see individual test for each and every separate locator. So it should click on that button, save it, and then right click, run it, Java application. Okay, it's launching the page. Okay, it's a little bit down, you can see. Okay, that's it's already clicked on hide button, that's why this box is got disappear. There's a field here, usually it's by default that field shows, but after you click on hide button it's disappear. Okay, if you click and show again, it will show. So when you click on hide, it's a disappear, so it did the job. Okay, so this is the CSS selector. So we can use CSS selector this way. There is a few other way you can use the CSS selector. If you use ID, if you have an ID attribute in your object locator, in your object, for your object, you can create the CSS locator selector this way, or we can do there's another way too. The other way, let me tell you. Okay, if there is an ID attribute and want to create CSS locator, so it's a selector, we use hash. We're going to put the hash, this sign first, then the value of the ID. It's very simple. Example, in the value of the ID is login, so when you create the CSS selector, we'll just put this one as a CSS selector. Okay, let's, so what will happen here for this if we want to do? So let's copy this. This is alternate way to create CSS selector. So we're going to say it will be same thing here. All you're going to change is there inside this. So since we are going to use the ID attribute, for ID where we're going to put this hash sign and the value of the ID. The value of the ID is this. The value of the ID is this. Okay, and then the click method. Let's do this. Okay. See, run it. Okay, it's a little bit slow. Okay, maximize the page. You can see. Okay, let's scroll down. It's here. It's again. It click on a hide button, so that's why the field is got disappear. Okay, if you click and show, you can see this box was disappear. So it did the job. So either way, you can use this way CSS selector. Okay. If there is a class attribute, if you want to use class attribute and create CSS selector using class attribute, that time what you have to do, the same thing you have to do. Instead of hash sign, you are going to use a dot and the value of the class. So example, if you have a class attribute and it has a value as password, and to create a CSS selector, all you have to do for the class attribute, you put the dot and then the value of the class, which is a password. This is another example. Okay, don't worry, I will attach all these notes below in description. Okay, so this is good. Let's go for number 5. Number 5, we're going to use LinkText. Using LinkText. Okay, LinkText. Okay, LinkText. So for the LinkText, so LinkText usually use in a website. We get a lot of link, right, in a text, and in text they may have a link. So example, LinkedIn profile, all those the texts have all those texts have a link. There's a lots of link over here. So if you have a web element which is a text and it's attached with another link, so to perform any test for this object, we can use LinkText process. So how we can do this? First is example. This is our LinkedIn profile. We want to do some test here. We want to click on this button link is to make sure this link is working. And so first, if you spy this, so this is the HTML code for the link, and so it has the text is all you need to copy get the text for this text. So LinkedIn profile, this is the text for this object. Copy this, and we're going to say driver dot find element by how we going to look at this object. We're going to use LinkText. We're going to use LinkText. You can see LinkText. Okay, LinkText method, and then pass the actual text for this object. And then what are you going to do? We're going to perform the click method. Good. Okay, so let's comment this one so that we can just see the result of this code. Save it and then run it. Okay, so it should maximize the page, and it should click on LinkedIn profile. Okay, you see, do you see it's clicked on LinkedIn profile, and it's another tab open, and it's took to my LinkedIn profile. Okay, so it works. That's the way LinkedIn work. Okay, I mean that's why LinkText method is work to locate any web element. Number 6, we're going to number 6 would be we're going to use class name. Okay, using class name. Class name. What would be the better option? Class name. Okay, how about this one? Radio button. Okay, let's see. It should have a class name. Let's inspect it. Okay, it has the tag name is input value. Okay, and then radio name, radio button. There's a class name. Okay, this is a class name. Class name we can use. This is a radio button. So let's use the class name. So we'll say driver dot find element. Driver dot find element by driver dot find element by dot. How we're going to use? We're going to use class name. And what's the value of the class name? Let's put it inside the class name. And what do you want to do? We want to click on there. Okay, let's comment this one so that we can just see the result of this radio button. Run it. Okay, so loading the page. It should select the radio button one. You see? Did you see? It's selected. Okay, it works. So there is a note for class using a class name or class. Okay, class is not that much good habit to use more frequently the class or class name. Because in HTML web page, the multiple elements or multiple object can have the same class name. So what's really happened when you execute the HTML code, our WebDriver started to read the page. It started to read the page from top left hand corner. So if you have, for example, you have a radio 1 button, you have a radio 2 button, and both of the web object have the same class name. So the driver will, if you want to select, for example, the second one, but your both button have the same class name, you can see it. Let's spy this one too. Input, you can see that's a class name, it's the same. Radio button, the second one, and the first one too have the same one. Let's see. You can see the class name is radio button. So all of the radio button, both of the radio button have the same class name. And if I want to select, check on the second radio button, it's not gonna, select the second one. It will always select the first one, because when the driver started to read, and it will find the first one first radio button have the same class name, and it will think that we are looking for the first one. It will always select the first one, the matching the class name for the first one. So if multiple web object have the same class name, that time it's a little bit problem using the class names. That's why it's a class it's not a good practice to use always class name. You have to be, when you use a class, have to a little bit careful to make sure there is no other element have the same class name. Similarly, if we go example Facebook, you can see Facebook, both the email this field and password field both have the same class name. Let's spy it. This is the input that you can see the class for the email, input text login dash form input box. And if you see for this the password one, let's spy the password one. The password one, you can see this is the same. This is the email, this is the password. Both of them have the same class name. So this is not ideal or good practice to use always class name. As well, you can see the class names sometimes have the long word. There is a the dash. There is a gap between the words, which is not a good thing. Okay. Sometimes WebDriver they can't able to read if you have a long class value, the class name. Okay, the values of the class is long words or sentence. It's not able to read it, and it's not a good practice to use. So but anyways, we can use over here just if there is a solid single word. But again, if it's a multiple object have the same name, we can't use, especially if you want to select the second one or the last one. So that's the class name. And the last one we can use, this next one we can use the tag name using tag name method. So tag name, it's similar to LinkText, but it's a little bit different. LinkText method use a specific object in a HTML page to locate it, one single element. But tag name, it's used usually to select or locate multiple same object, multiple links. Okay, it means here is if there is a in a side, whatever any object, any text have a link, you will see all of the links started with a tag name is called A or anchor A. Let's see, this one have a link. You can see the HTML, it is started with a tag name. Any one of them, it's up, say this one, add a link, you can see it started with A. So any object, you can see this one, you can see all these objects have all these texts have a link, and all of them started with a tag name, it's called A or anchor A. So any object in a website have a link attached with the link, it will always have this is very universal way to design the website. It will start with a tag name. So when you use the tag name, it will find the multiples, all the links in a website. So tag name it's used to locate multiples or all the links in a website. Okay, I have a video related to the how to use the tag name. Okay, in my YouTube channel, in my other tutorial, I will let me show you. So if you go to my YouTube channel and for the Selenium practice and practice number 5, you can see how to test links in Selenium. This is a good example, that where I use the tag. You can see there is a tag name, to how we can use the tag name to define or to find out the total number of links in a page, in a website. As well, this is also a good example related with the LinkText test in a site. Okay, so please have a look. This tutorial, it will give you better idea about the links test using tag name method. So for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use so example for this page. I'm going to use the total number of where is the practice page? This is the practice. So in this practice page, I'm going to use the total number of links. I will find the how many links we have, the total number of links. Okay, that time we can use tag name. So using a tag name, we'll say driver dot find. This time we're going to use find elements. Since the tag name is going to result, all of the links have the same tag name, so it will find the multiple web object or elements. That's why we're going to use find elements method, not the element, because it's gonna be find the multiple elements. So then how we're going to look at, we're going to look at by tag name. We're going to look at the tag name, and what's the tag name? Tag name it's A, anchor A. And then, so example, I want to find the total number of tag name. So to find the total number of tag name, total number of link by the tag name A, we use it's called the size method. Size method, it's apply on this object, we'll find whatever the the number of object we find by using the tag A, it will give us a it will able to find using this size method. And we can print it and see how many links we have in that page. So to print it, we'll say sysout, okay, and put this inside. Good. So let's comment this one, radio button, or we can keep it open, that's fine. And then save it and run it. Run as Java application. Let's see. Opening the page, so it will click on radio button. I didn't put as a comment that one, so it should click on radio button 1, and then it will give us a total number of links in this page. Okay, let's close it and go back to here in our console. You can see in our console it's printed 76. So on that page you will find total 76 links we have. Okay, so that's the way we are going to use the tag name method to locate multiple elements have the links. Okay, pretty much that's it. So this is the number 7. There is a one more. It's called, you can see, driver dot find element here by partial. It's called partial LinkText. Partial LinkText is nothing like if you have a text, have a link, but it's a long text. That time you don't need to put the whole text. Example here, it has a long text. Okay, like Selenium headless browser testing, it has a long text. If you spy this, you can see this is it has a long text. Like Selenium, you can say Selenium headless browser testing, that's a long text, right? So if you have a link in a long text, that time you don't need to put the whole text. You can put just like Selenium headless. You can copy this and you can use this partial LinkText method and paste the partial of the text, and then you can say I wanna click up there. Okay, so this is so partial LinkText also is not recommended that much use. If you don't have any other option that you can use, but usually I don't recommend to use the partial LinkText that much. Okay, so that's it about this. Is the number 8 using partial LinkText. Number 8 was okay, partial partial link text, sorry. Okay, so using partial link text, so this is the now all of the 8 locator that we usually use, and this is as per the Selenium standard process to locate or to find a address any web element in a site. Okay, and as I said, I will make another separate video for more depth knowledge regarding the Xpath and CSS selector, because the Xpath is more frequently used. There is a lot of other relation in Xpath. A lot of times we don't find direct Xpath for an object. At that time we have to traverse from parent Xpath, from parents class to the child class. That time we have to traverse from parents to child. So there is a way we can traverse from parent to child object. We can traverse from one sibling to another sibling, from one in a class. It may have a lot of multiple siblings, so you can traverse sometimes siblings to siblings. So those are the depth knowledge, so I will make another separate video for this, but for now this is the very fundamental but very basic and very important feature, all those locators to know. At least your 70 to 80% job will done as per how to use all this attribute, okay, all this locator to address any object. Okay, thank you so much. That's all for now, and I will see you in next tutorial. Have a good one.